Violets are one of my favorite flowers, and it was a lot of fun to make a whole quilt from just one easy 4-patch block. I took that same block and turned it into a tall flowers version for the May edition of the Little Bit Different Block of the Month program. But did you know you can make this same block in 4 different configurations? Hi, I'm Andy, and this is True Blue Quilts, a place to enjoy, experiment, and excel as you quilt. And today we're going to learn how to make not just one, not two, but 5 different flower blocks with the same basic construction.
Before I show you how to make those quilt blocks, let's take an up-close look at the quilt behind me.
I made this quilt for my daughter when she was a toddler, and I had so much fun taking the small version, making it a little bit bigger, and finally making an extra large version as well. And she got to play in my scrap bin and pull all her favorite fabrics out for this fun flower garden quilt. With a square violet block, you make 4 identical units, and then we will rotate them to create the flower. So step 1 is with an alternate color for the center of the flower, and you just sew that square onto one corner of your flower fabric. And I just love this swirly red print. It almost looks like those acrylic paint pours that are so fun to watch. But I've got my 4 squares, and so this is the first variation of the violet, where you just have a simple square with one corner sewn in an alternating fabric, and you can put that in the center and sew your 4-patch together, and you've got a really cute square in a square flower. For the second version of the violet quilt block, I sew a background corner on my square. So I've positioned everything with the center fabric to the bottom right. So my next square will be on the top right. And I've chosen green to go with my flower garden theme. All of the background corners will have that green fabric square, and the cream colored fabric is the center of my flower. So again, we just rotate each petal around our center, and there is a slightly different version of our flower with one background square. For the third violet flower variation, I've added a second background square to the top left corner of my flower petal. And this is the variation I use most often, just to keep that fourth corner with the flower petal fabric showing, and rotate those blocks around, keeping our flower center fabric pointed to the middle. And there we have our flower petals spiraling around the center, and I just really like the look of that flower. So this is the variation I use most often when I am making this violet quilt block. And you can make these blocks any size. Just start with a smaller or larger square to begin with, and they sew together as 4 patches. Here we go with our 4th and final violet block layout with the third background corner sewn on. So we have 3 background corners and 1 alternate color for the center of the flower. This is a traditional snowball block where you have a center square and the 4 corners are sewn on with smaller squares. So I will rotate those flower petals all the way around, and we can see our fun flower emerge with the red flower petals, the cream colored center, and the green background squares. And we'll sew that together and it will be ready to add to a garden themed quilt. Ta-da! Here is the finished block. And having all 4 corners sewn on our flower petal fabric gives it a little bit more round feel of those petals, but it also creates a pretty strong X in our block as compared to a version that only had 2 background squares on it. So personal preference, of course, your quilt, your rules. I do want to share the pressing directions that I did on this block. All of the corners are pressed towards the corner fabric. Even though the petal is darker, I'm pressing out towards the corners of my block. And then because there is a lot of bulk whenever you have a triangle seam, angled seam in your block, I like to press the major horizontal and vertical seams open on my block, and that just helps everything lay nice and smooth, and we are ready to continue quilting. Let's take a look at a rectangular version of this block. When we are working with our rectangular block, our quadrants are not going to spin the same way as they would if we had square units, because you see the difference in the size of the rectangle when you lay it on its side. So that means for this block, we have to do 2 quadrants with the green background squares at the top on the skinny end. And we need to do the other pair with the green background on the long side, so that when we sew the blocks together, it looks like that petal turned to the right. So it gives it that spinning movement of our flower. Let's get that sewn together. Since I made 2 identical pairs, I can flip them around so that the centers meet, and it makes my flower block with the petals appearing to spin around the center. Here is the finished May block, Tall Flowers. Remember, you can download the block pattern for free during 2023 with the Little Bit Different Block of the Month program at truebluequilts.com.
I have patterns featuring each of the Little Bit Different blocks, and this one is called Flower Market.
Did you enjoy these flower blocks? If you're looking for floral free motion quilting designs, check out this video next. Enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.